Recording.
Alright. Hey guys, I'm Matthew Warner and this is my brother Anthony. We're the founders of the Yote Social app, which we believe is going to be the next big thing in social. And we'd like to talk to you today about what the current social scene is, and then also what Yote is and how it can help you. We're kind of just doing this in an interview format so that we could bring you a more natural setting and what we believe some good direct answers are for that. So to start, I'm going to ask Tony here, tell me a little bit, describe to me what the vibe or your experience is when you visit a social venue today, like a concert hall or a coffee house or a bar or local place.
Yeah, the thing that most frustrates me is whenever I go to a place, I usually go alone, and then I'll see people that I think are very cool, I want to talk to, and there's not a way for me to talk to them. I can kind of get up the courage and walk over and just have this sort of cold call interaction where I just introduce myself. But there's not a practical way, and I think a lot of times what I do is I start getting regretful even in the moment. Like I'll be sitting at a bar or a cafe or a concert or even in like a classroom, and I'll start getting regretful that I'm not talking to these people.
So let me break it down a little bit. I'd like to go into more detail of like a specific venue. So tell me a coffee house. You go into a coffee house, what are you there for? And then, what is the vibe there for you? What you're experiencing when you go get a coffee?
Yeah, so
Madcap or roaster.
yeah, the cool thing about a coffee shop is that normally the people that go to a coffee shop are like me. And it's like this for every coffee shop. There are a lot of different reasons for that, but...
So if you go to the Big B Coffee on 28th Street,
exactly,
most of the people are like you.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, didn't we go to like a fucking Chipotle in 28th Street? I was like, dude, there's like a really cool person. But anyways, it was worse. It was the Pot Belly
on 28th Street.
But yeah, so I'll go to a coffee shop, and I think often of the one that I spent a lot of time at the last couple of years, but Verve, and
in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and I'd go there, and basically everyone in there was some sort of young, artistic, either following an academic path because USC was right nearby. There's a lot of people doing technology. I talked with one of the guys who had a Netflix competitor. And yeah, my experience was that I would go into these places and I would position myself to be open. This is something I had a conversation with a friend about. But a lot of times we're trying to be open to the interaction. We're trying to like let it happen to us, but it never happens to us. So I basically would sit up and I'd position myself. I'd make slight little cues to the people around me, but no one would ever come up and talk to me.
So you're trying to be social. You're in a venue with a bunch of like-minded people, all the creative types, technology, in the right city, Los Angeles. Everybody around you is doing similar things, all creative, curator-type people, and yet. In a social venue, in a social public place, you have no method to engage with these people. You have no way to start a conversation that's not somewhat forced or a little bit awkward.
Yeah, and the other problem that creates is that it's distracting. So basically, as I'm sitting in this thing, and I'm seeing all of these cool people around me that I'm not talking to, that distracts me. And it's the kind of thing like, it's the thing that I'm seeking, the thing that I'm attracted to, whether it's even on an analogy would be if you're hungry and you're seeing all this food around you, and you want to eat this food, but you can't eat this food. If it's like that with social interactions, you're seeing all these people around you that you want to interact with, and it's distracting because you can't.
You're thirsty.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're thirsty for everybody around you, but you can't necessarily obtain any of these people because you don't have a good method.
Exactly.
So we'll transition into, if with Yote as it exists today, you're able to broadcast something to those people nearby so they have information about that. And tell me something that you might share with the people nearby you and what that would do to improve your chances of starting a conversation with somebody that that you'd like to meet in a place like the Verve. So what would you say to them, and then why does it make it easier?
Yeah, and this is a good example, and this is something that I've actually broadcasted, but it was basically wanting to go to this concert that was a couple blocks away, and it was the kind of thing where it's like I didn't have anyone to go with. I don't think I knew anyone really around that wanted to go to this thing. But I wanted to go to it. So I was, getting tickets, I was ready to go. And it would have been nice to find someone else, because especially downtown LA is a good example, is a lot of people live down there and a lot of people go to these different events down there. These events are all, some are at the Ace, some are at, different theaters around there. But I would have liked to, broadcast to these people, is anyone going to this thing? Does anyone want to go to this thing? Does anyone want to hang out at my rooftop pool? Or does anyone want to do any of these sort of things? My sort of, the things that I tend to broadcast are on the social spectrum. You can broadcast, things that are on the professional spectrum depending on what your goal is for that time and that place. But I always tend to broadcast these social things, like, hey, who wants to go to this thing with me?
Yeah, so one example, he had a rooftop pool at his apartment in Los Angeles. And, there's plenty of other people in that building, plenty of other people in the nearby area. But, it's a public space that anybody can hang out with. But there's no method of communicating between all the people sharing space. You can't say, without going around and knocking on all the doors of everybody in the apartments, or going up and asking every person at the Verve, hey, would you like to go up and hang out on this rooftop pool and have a drink or whatever. But with Yote, you can say, hey, I'm going to be up at the pool at this time. Anybody else like to come up there and hang out and chill? So people that don't even know that there's a rooftop pool right next door would now have access to that by being on the platform through Tony. And so there's a lot of opportunities for teaming up with the people around you that you share space with, and then doing things together, right? So you're around people and you have some good ideas of things that you want to do, but you might not do them without somebody else. With Yote, you're able to quickly form companions and do those things that you'd like to do, whether it's going to a concert, going to an art gallery, going to a rooftop pool or a party or anything like that. You now have this local communication network that really helps everybody gather and do the things they'd like to do with new people.
Yeah, and an important thing as well is that it increases the chances of success, even if there was no platform that you could talk to people, there's not a very high likelihood of success. There's a sort of, and it depends also on what your sort of social capital is. So if you're more well-known, if you're more attractive, if you're more, if you have some position that's visible and people can see what you're doing and relate to it. But there was...
and even when you're on that level, right? So you're talking about how somebody looks.
Yeah.
It's basically, that improves your chances of other people coming up and talking to you. But at some level, some of the people that, they might be very attractive, or they might be very interesting looking to others nearby, they might still seem unapproachable, right? They might you know, maybe there's this person that everybody's like, well, I'd like to talk to that person to date them, or I'd like to talk to that person for business or whatever, but they might seem out of your league, and so, you know, maybe for them, they're actually really isolated as well, because nobody ever comes up and talks to them because they don't have the courage, because they think that that person's out of their league.
Yeah, that's huge. That's
so regardless of what you're looking like, it's like you're gonna have these
barriers,
social barriers that exist today, and you know, with Yote, we want to break down those barriers and make it so that you can see beyond the surface level. You have a little bit more about the character of the people around you and a little bit more about what they're interested in, so that you can say, all right, I want to talk to that person because they're into nuclear fusion and I love talking about that, and maybe we can do something. Or I want to talk to, you know, let's say I'm the lead singer of the band, but I still need to get my band. So, you know, you want to let people know that around you and other musicians that are looking for, you know, a singer or something like that could, you know, they could approach you and say, hey, let's start a band. And you can make things happen on Yote with the people around you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right.